The gate agent doesn't whisper. He doesn't hesitate either. You're not boarding this flight. The words detonate across gate B27 like something physical, loud enough to stop conversations mid-sentence, loud enough to make a man in a gray suit look up from his phone, loud enough to reach the third row of seats near the window where a small girl with box braids sits very still with an open book in her lap. She does not turn the page. She is listening. The woman at the counter is Danielle Carter. 34 years old. ICU nurse. Birmingham, Alabama. She is wearing a pressed charcoal blazer over dark slacks and carrying a slim black leather tote that contains her portfolio, her tablet, and 3 years of her life compressed into a single interview packet. Her boarding pass is in her right hand, printed at 5:15 a.m., checked twice in the Uber, checked again at security. The seat number printed on it is 2A. Business class. First row. Window. She paid for it herself. The gate agent's name tag reads Travis. He is tall, tight-jawed, and carries himself with the particular certainty of a man who has confused a uniform for power. He barely glanced at the boarding pass before sliding it back across the counter. The slide itself, that small, dismissive push, carries more insult than anything he will say aloud this morning. You're in the wrong line. Danielle blinks. I'm sorry. Priority boarding. Business class only. She points to the ticket. Her finger is steady. That's what this is. Travis exhales through his nose. Slow. Deliberate. The exhale of a man performing patience he does not feel. Ma'am. Please step aside so we can keep the line moving. She feels it before she names it. That specific heat, the kind that lives just below the collarbone and rises when the world decides to question something about you that it never questions about the person standing next to you. 34 years have taught her to keep that heat contained. To wrap it tight and carry it without spilling. Because the moment she spills it, she becomes the problem, not the man who manufactured one. She keeps her voice even. My ticket says seat 2A. Travis leans forward. Drops his voice just low enough to make the humiliation feel private, intimate, targeted. Sometimes people print the wrong boarding group online. It happens. Behind her, a man mutters something sharp. A woman near the window raises her phone, not fully, not yet, but the angle changes. The terminal smells of burnt coffee and recycled air and something electric that hasn't sparked yet. Travis straightens. The conversation, in his accounting of it, is over. If you'd like, you can speak with customer service after everyone else boards. After everyone else. The words land with architectural precision, designed to move her, contain her, erase her from a space she paid to occupy. Danielle's grip tightens around the boarding pass. The paper edge presses into the pad of her thumb. I paid for this seat. Travis' patience doesn't just leave the room. It leaves the building. Ma'am. You were not boarding this flight. Silence drops over gate B27 like a held breath. 30 passengers freeze. Some stare. Some look away. Some do what people do in the presence of injustice when it doesn't belong to them, they study the carpet. And in the third row of seats near the window, the small girl with box braids closes her book. She sets it carefully on top of her yellow backpack. She stands up. Her name is Amara Kingsley. She is 8 years old. And she has been watching since the moment Danielle's voice first tightened. She walks to the counter. The crowd parts without meaning to, that instinctive, almost physical clearing that happens when something with authority moves through a space, regardless of how small it is. She stops beside Danielle. Looks up at Travis. Her voice carries clean and clear across the silent gate, the way her grandmother taught her to speak, not loud, just certain. You should probably let her on that plane, before you lose your job. Every head turns. Every phone rises. And Travis Whitmore, 12-year veteran, guardian of thresholds, enforcer of unwritten rules, looks at an 8-year-old girl for the first time this morning. For the first time, he looks uncertain. The break room smells like burnt coffee and antiseptic and the particular exhaustion of people who chose a profession that does not allow them to look away from suffering. Danielle Carter is on her 14th hour of a 12-hour shift. The ink stain on her left scrub pocket is from the pen she always carries, the same pen she uses to initial medication charts, write family updates, and scrawl the kind of notes that nurses leave between shifts because the chart doesn't capture everything a human being needs to know. She almost doesn't look at her phone when it buzzes. She almost doesn't. Subject: interview confirmation, Pacific Meridian Medical Collective, Los Angeles, California. She reads it once. Then she sets the coffee down. Then she reads it again. The Pacific Meridian Fellowship does not advertise. It does not need to. It is the most selective advanced clinical leadership program in the country, 20 slots reviewed annually from thousands of applications. Danielle has applied twice before. The first time, she reached the second round. The second time, the third. This time, they are flying her out. She sits in a break room that smells like the inside of every sacrifice she has made, and she feels something she has not permitted herself to feel in a very long time. Hope with teeth in it. Her brother Corey is asleep across town in the apartment she helped him furnish after his hospitalization last year. She has been covering his rent for 4 months. Her savings account holds enough for 2 more. The fellowship comes with a real salary. A research stipend. Benefits. The kind of professional standing that doesn't just open doors, it explains to the door why you are always supposed to walk through it. She books the 7:15 a.m. flight at 2:31 in the morning. She does not sleep. She presses the blazer. She charges the tablet. She prints the boarding pass and reads the confirmation email 4 separate times. She orders a 5 a.m. Uber because she will not, on this morning above all mornings, leave anything to chance. Back at gate B27, present. Travis has crossed his arms. He has the practiced stillness of a man who has won this kind of standoff before, who has learned that most people, when held at a threshold long enough, will eventually step back from it. He has learned to wait. Danielle is not most people. She carries 19 years of nursing in her shoulders. She has delivered news that broke families open. She has sat beside strangers in their worst minutes and held the space steady so they didn't collapse into it. She knows what it looks like when a person is manufacturing calm they don't feel. She is looking at it now. The ticket has been flagged. Flagged for what? I'm not able to share that information. She sets her leather tote on the floor beside her feet, carefully, the way you set down something you plan to pick up again. She is not leaving. She is getting comfortable. Then I'd like to speak with your supervisor. He's occupied. 2 passengers behind her now have their phones fully out. The man in the gray suit has put his own phone away and is simply watching, the kind of watching that comes from someone deciding they are a witness to something. Travis glances past Danielle to the boarding line. That sweep of the eyes, casual, dismissive, passing over her like she is furniture between him and his actual concern. It is the moment Amara has been waiting for. She steps forward beside Danielle. Her yellow backpack is still slung over both shoulders. She is the height of the counter's edge. She looks directly at Travis. Did you check the passenger record, or did you just assume? Travis blinks. The gate holds its breath. And in the silence that follows, a silence so complete that the ambient hum of the terminal's ventilation system is suddenly audible, Danielle Carter looks down at the small girl beside her. For the first time since reaching this counter, she does not feel alone. Travis Whitmore has worked for Skybridge Airlines for 12 years. He will tell you this. Not immediately, not without prompting, but eventually, the way people tell you things that they have made load-bearing in their sense of themselves. 12 years. 1,000 departures. Gate disputes, delayed celebrities, families who arrived 20 minutes before pushback with 6 bags, and the energy of people who believe the rules exist for other travelers. He has seen every version. He has handled every version. He tells himself this now, internally, as a small 8-year-old girl asks him a question that he does not intend to answer. He looks at Amara the way adults look at children who interrupt important conversations, with a patient, terminal smile. The smile that says, "You are adorable, you are irrelevant, and this does not concern you. Sweetheart. This doesn't concern you." Amara Kingsley does not move. She is small, 8 years old, dressed in neat dark jeans and a white sweatshirt with a small embroidered star on the chest. Her box braids are pulled back and secured. Her yellow backpack sits flush against her spine. She looks, from any reasonable external assessment, like every child in every departure gate in every airport in America. She is not. But Travis does not know this yet. And that not knowing is the crack in the wall that is about to become the entire collapse. She tilts her head slightly, a gesture so precise in its calm that it unsettles something in the air around the counter. My grandmother used to say that airports are where people show their real character. Something shifts in the room. Not loudly. Just slightly. The way atmospheric pressure changes before weather arrives, imperceptible until it isn't. Travis' smile does not waver. But it tightens at the edges. He turns back to Danielle, reclaiming territory. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you one more time too." She has a valid ticket. Amara's voice is not raised. It is simply clear, the kind of clear that fills a room without effort, the way her grandmother's voice always did. Travis turns back slowly. His patience is a finite resource and it is spending faster than he anticipated. "Young lady. Seat 2A. Skybridge Flight 214. Purchased 22 days ago. Confirmed. Not upgraded, purchased directly at business class fare." Someone in the boarding line makes a sound. Not a word. Just a sound, the involuntary exhale of a person watching something they cannot yet categorize. Travis stares at her. "Where are you getting that information?" Amara reaches into the yellow backpack. She removes a slim iPad in a dark protective case. She holds it at counter height, deliberately, the way someone presents evidence rather than shows off a toy, and turns the screen so Travis can read it. The screen shows the Skybridge passenger management interface. Not the customer app. Not a travel website. The internal system. Real-time. Administrative access. The terminal's ventilation hum fills the silence. Travis' chest does something it has not done behind this counter in 12 years. It tightens. According to the airline system, Danielle Carter is supposed to be in first class. Murmurs move through the boarding line like a current through still water, fast, directional, spreading. Danielle stares at the screen. Her mind is trying to arrange what it is seeing into something coherent and not quite arriving there. This child, this 8-year-old standing at her elbow with a yellow backpack and a star on her chest, has just read her booking record from an internal airline terminal. Travis leans forward and drops his voice to the register he uses for containment. "I don't know where you got access to that, but would you like me to read the confirmation number out loud?" Amara's eyes are direct. Patient. Entirely unbothered. Travis makes a decision. It is the worst decision of his 12-year career. "I'm calling security." The woman near the window presses record. Amara reaches back into the yellow backpack. She does not remove the iPad this time. What she places on the counter is a small, navy blue folder. She opens it. Lays it flat. Steps back. The supervisor, emerging from the jet bridge corridor with a clipboard and the distracted expression of a man managing 14 things simultaneously, stops walking when his eyes reach the counter. His clipboard drops to his side. The color leaves his face. The supervisor's name is Gerald Marsh. 9 years managing gates at Hartsfield-Jackson have given Gerald a finely calibrated instinct for situations that are about to become significantly worse than they currently appear. The instinct operates below language. It arrives as a pressure in the chest, a slight change in how the air in a gate area feels. It is screaming at him right now. He walks forward slowly. Clipboard still at his side. Eyes moving from the navy folder on the counter, to the small girl standing behind it, to the gate agent whose face has taken on the specific color of a man who has realized, too late, that he has walked into something much larger than he understood. Gerald looks at the name on the document inside the folder. He looks at the girl. Miss Kingsley. He says it carefully. The way you say a name when the name carries weight you did not expect to encounter today. The murmur that moves through the crowd this time is different from the others. Louder. More confused. The murmur of people who have just heard a small child addressed with the formality reserved for executives. Amara's nanny, a composed woman in her early 50s named Mrs. Okafor, who has managed Amara's schedule, correspondence, and the particular complexity of being guardian in practice to a child whose life does not resemble other children's lives, has crossed the gate area and placed one hand gently on Amara's shoulder. Amara, sweetheart. I'm okay, Mrs. Okafor. Amara does not look away from Gerald. She says it the way children say things when they have learned to mean them. From the row of seats near the window, a man stands. He is tall. Charcoal jacket, dark slacks. The kind of physical stillness that belongs to people who have never needed to take up more space than they naturally occupy because they have never been asked to take up less. He walks to the counter without urgency. He stands beside his daughter. Marcus Kingsley. He says only this. He does not elaborate. He does not need to. Gerald exhales through his nose. Mr. Kingsley. Travis is very still. He does not know the name Kingsley. In 12 years at Skybridge gates and check-in counters, the name has passed through his awareness exactly 0 times. But he is reading the room with the desperate competence of a man whose certainty has just abandoned him, reading Gerald's posture, reading the careful neutrality on Marcus Kingsley's face, reading Mrs. Okafor's expression, which contains something that looks uncomfortably like pity. He understands, with the cold clarity of a man whose foundation is cracking, that the error he made was not one he can walk back. My daughter, Marcus says, evenly, without heat, holds majority interest in Beaumont Transportation Holdings. He allows exactly 2 seconds of silence. Which is one of the primary investment partners of Skybridge Airlines. The gate area does not erupt. It does something quieter and more devastating, it absorbs. The way a room absorbs news that rearranges the furniture of reality without moving a single physical object. Danielle Carter has not moved from the counter. She has stood in this same position for 6 minutes, boarding pass still in her hand, toad on the floor at her feet, blazer still pressed and perfect because she pressed it at 4 a.m. for a morning that was supposed to be straightforward. She is looking at the girl beside her. This 8-year-old with braids and a yellow backpack and a grandmother's cadence in every sentence she speaks. This child who crossed a crowded gate area on behalf of a stranger and placed a shareholding document on an airline counter as casually as another child might place a hall pass. Danielle's eyes are bright. She blinks once, precisely, and holds it together. Amara looks up at Travis. She does not raise her voice. She does not perform triumph. She asks the question her grandmother would have asked, the question that does not need volume because the truth inside it provides its own pressure. If someone bought a ticket, followed the rules, and showed you everything you asked for, why are you trying to stop them? Travis opens his mouth. No sound emerges. 30 passengers wait. And Gerald Marsh reaches for his radio. An 8-year-old just asked the question every adult in that gate was thinking but didn't say. How many times have you seen something wrong and stayed quiet? Subscribe. Stay for the answer. It comes in. Gerald speaks into the radio. 3 words, low and measured, in the clipped shorthand of airport operations. I need leadership. He clips it back to his belt. He sets his clipboard face down on the counter. He looks at Travis with an expression that communicates, without a single word, in the highly efficient language of institutional accountability, that the next person to speak at this counter had better have chosen their words in advance. Travis speaks. This is his second mistake. I was enforcing policy. The ticket showed an irregularity. I was following standard. Which irregularity? Marcus asks. The question lands without force. Conversational. Patient. The kind of question a person asks when they already possess the answer and are inviting someone to demonstrate that they do not. Travis looks at Gerald. Gerald does not move. The woman near the window, her name is Priya, she teaches 4th grade in Decatur and came to Gate B27 this morning to catch a flight to visit her sister, is no longer pretending to be a casual bystander. Her phone is fully raised. The retired federal judge in the gray suit, whose name is Clarence Webb and who spent 31 years on the federal bench before his retirement, has also raised his phone. His footage is steadier. It will, within 4 hours, be picked up by 6 national news organizations. But that is later. Right now, in Gate B27, Travis Whitmore is answering a question. The irregularity was in the boarding group designation. Her boarding group is BC1. Business class, highest designation. It's on the pass and in the system. Both match. Amara says this without looking up from the iPad. Her voice carries the flat, factual authority of someone reading from a document, because she is. Another sound from the crowd. Not a murmur. Something closer to collective disbelief, the audible recalibration of 30 people absorbing information that contradicts what they were watching happen. Danielle Carter is looking at the girl beside her. She has spent the last 7 minutes being defended by someone who reaches her shoulder. A child who quoted internal policy codes, accessed an administrative airline system, and produced a shareholding certificate with the practiced ease of someone who has been taught, carefully, deliberately, over years, to understand exactly what belongs to her. She wants to say something. Her mind builds sentences and dissolves them. Nothing she constructs is adequate. How does she have access to the internal system? Travis directs this at Gerald, low, as though volume might make the question more private. Gerald looks at Marcus. Marcus looks at his daughter. Amara scrolls 2 lines down the iPad screen and answers without looking up. Beaumont Transportation's investment agreement with Skybridge includes operational transparency rights. Section 14. Subsection C. Silence. Absolute silence. The kind that is texture, dense and pressurized, the kind you can feel against your skin. Then, from somewhere in the middle of the boarding line, a man laughs. Not cruelly. Not mockingly. The involuntary laugh of someone watching something they cannot fully believe is real. In 30 years on the federal bench, Clarence Webb has watched power reveal itself in courtrooms, in chambers, in the small procedural moments that determine everything. He has never watched it reveal itself in a boarding gate. He is watching it now. Gerald takes one deliberate breath and faces Travis directly. We're pausing boarding. Travis' jaw tightens. Gerald, Travis. Stop talking. 3 words. Flat. Final. The verbal equivalent of a door closing. Danielle watches Travis' face move through 3 expressions in 4 seconds. She has watched faces in ICU waiting rooms do the same thing, defensiveness first, then calculation, then the arrival of something that strips both away and leaves only the truth underneath. Fear. Not fear of Amara. Not even fear of Marcus. Fear of the record. Of the footage. Of the timeline being assembled in real time by 30 phones and the internal airline system that has logged every modification, every timestamp, every employee ID involved in what happened to seat 2A at 6:31 this morning. Gerald picks up the counterphone. Amara watches Travis. Travis stares at the iPad in her hands, that slim device in its dark case, displaying the internal architecture of the airline whose gate he has managed for 12 years. The system that, in this moment, is displaying evidence of what he did with the access he was trusted with. He looks at an 8-year-old who understood his system better than he understood his own choices. She looks up and meets his eyes. She does not say anything. She does not need to. Then, into the silence, soft and clear and perfectly weighted. "Would you like me to explain," she says, "what he actually did?" 3 figures appear at the end of the B corridor. They are moving fast. Dark blazers. Badges that read corporate, regional operations. One of them is already on the phone. And the one leading the group, a woman, late 40s, with the particular velocity of someone who has received the call they were not expecting, already knows exactly who Amara Kingsley is. She has known since the morning the Beaumont estate filed its investment disclosures 18 months ago. What she is about to say, in front of this entire gate, in front of 30 passengers and their cameras and one retired federal judge, Travis Whitmore never imagined. The 3 executives move through the B corridor the way people move when they have received the call they were not expecting and understand that every second they are not at a specific location is a second the situation is compounding without them. Shoulders forward. Eyes fixed ahead. The particular velocity of institutional authority in emergency mode. The one leading the group is a woman. Late 40s. Dark blazer, fitted and precise. Hair pulled back with the kind of efficiency that suggests she has not thought about her appearance this morning because she has not needed to. She carries herself in a way that makes appearance irrelevant. Her badge reads, Corporate, Regional Operations. Her name is Sandra Cole, and she has been on the phone since the elevator. She reaches gate B27 and reads the scene in 4 seconds. The gate agent with his arms no longer crossed, hands flat at his sides. The passenger still standing at the counter, still standing, boarding pass still in hand, blazer still pressed, with the particular stillness of a woman who has decided she is not going anywhere. The small girl with the iPad and the navy folder. Marcus Kingsley. Gerald Marsh with his clipboard face down. She looks at Gerald. "How long?" 12 minutes. She looks at Travis. Travis says nothing. Sandra takes a position beside Gerald and addresses the gate area directly. Not loudly. She does not need volume. She has the kind of voice that a room adjusts itself around, calm, load-bearing, the voice of someone who has delivered difficult information in difficult circumstances and learned that clarity is a form of mercy. "I apologize to everyone here for the delay. We are resolving a passenger services matter and boarding will resume shortly." She turns to Amara. Something in her posture shifts, not deferential, but deliberate. The specific adjustment of a professional who understands exactly who she is speaking to. "Miss Kingsley, will you show me what you found?" Amara steps forward and places the iPad on the counter, screen up, turned so Sandra can read every field. The Skybridge Internal Passenger Management System. Real time. Administrative access. Danielle Carter's booking record rendered in full, every field clean and verified. Seat 2A. Business class, fare code BC1. Payment confirmed at full price, not upgrade pricing. Identity verified. Check-in completed. Boarding group BC1. And then, below the original record, a second entry. A modification line. Timestamped at 6:31 a.m. 14 minutes before Danielle reached the counter, someone reached into the system and moved her. Changed her seat. Changed her boarding group. Erased her from the front of the plane and buried her in economy, before she walked through the door. Sandra reads the modification record without expression. She reads it the way professionals read things they knew, somewhere, they would eventually have to read. Whose employee ID initiated that change? Amara scrolls 2 lines. Sandra reads the number. She looks up. Travis is looking at the floor. The floor is navy blue carpet, worn at the edges near the boarding door. He has stood on it for 12 years and knows every square foot of it and is studying it now with the concentration of a man who has run out of other places to look. There must have been a system error. His voice has changed. the authority that lived in it 20 minutes ago, the flat, practiced certainty of a man who has made 1,000 passengers step back from counters, is gone. What remains is something thinner. Defensive. The voice of a man constructing a story he does not quite believe. Employee IDs are required to initiate seat reassignments. Sandra says. It is not a question. Danielle has been listening to every syllable. She looks at the modification timestamp on the screen. 6:31 a.m. She arrived at gate B27 at 6:49. The seat was taken from her before she walked through the door. Before Travis saw her face. Before she said a single word. Someone looked at a name on a manifest and made a decision, and then Travis was positioned at this counter to enforce it. The heat below her collarbone does not rise this time. It crystallizes. Cold, clarifying, precise. My seat was reassigned before I arrived. Sandra does not answer immediately. She is still looking at the screen. Yes. She says finally. That is what this shows. From somewhere in the boarding line, the man in the gray suit, Clarence Webb, retired federal judge, who has been standing and watching and recording for the past 8 minutes, says quietly, to no one in particular. I knew it. Security, summoned earlier by Gerald's radio call, appears at the edge of the gate area. 2 officers. They read the room. They do not approach Travis yet. They position themselves. Amara closes the iPad cover. She looks at Danielle. I told you it wasn't you, she says. Soft. Certain. The way her grandmother used to say things that were both comfort and fact simultaneously. Danielle does not trust her voice yet. She nods once. And behind them, Sandra Cole is already opening a second screen, one that will pull the complete passenger manifest for Flight 214, and specifically the current occupant of Seat 2A. What it shows next will make every person in Gate B27 go very, very still. Travis speaks first. This is his second mistake at this counter this morning, and it will cost him everything the first one left intact. I made an administrative adjustment. He uses the word adjustment with the deliberate care of someone who has chosen it for its smallness. Its bureaucratic neutrality. Its suggestion of routine correction rather than deliberate action. Administrative. Adjustment. 2 words designed to make what he did sound like maintenance. To whom? Sandra does not raise her voice. She never has, in this entire conversation, and the consistency of her calm is its own form of pressure, the kind that builds not by increasing force but by never releasing it. The seat was reallocated to whom? Travis. Gerald pulls the current passenger manifest from beneath the counter. Places it in front of Sandra. She reads it for 3 seconds. Then she looks up with an expression that has moved past professional and into something quieter and more serious. The current passenger in Seat 2A is listed as Garrett Hollis. Booked at 6:44 a.m. A sound moves through the crowd. Sharp. Collective. The sound of 30 people doing the same arithmetic simultaneously. 6:44 a.m. 13 minutes after the modification. 13 minutes after Travis removed Danielle from Seat 2A, a new name appeared in it. Mr. Hollis' original ticketed seat? Gerald checks without looking up. 17F, economy class. An economy passenger was sitting in Danielle's business class seat. The seat Danielle paid $847 for, saved for, pressed her blazer for, booked at 5:15 in the morning 3 weeks ago. That seat had a different name in it before she reached the counter. Someone near the back of the line says it out loud. Not loudly, but clearly enough for the entire gate to hear. Oh my God. Danielle absorbs the information the way she absorbs difficult news in the ICU, not by looking away from it, but by looking directly at it until it becomes real enough to process. She has delivered this kind of news. She has sat across from people while their world reconfigured itself around a single fact they could not unhear. She had not expected to be sitting on the other side of it at gate B27 on a Tuesday morning. She looks at Travis. Travis is looking at the carpet again. Why me? The question is not loud. It is not theatrical. It carries no performance of outrage, no tremor of rehearsed emotion. It is the question of a woman who has carried the answer to it for 34 years and still cannot make peace with the math of it, the equation that produces this result, again and again, in airport terminals and hospital boardrooms and investor meetings and every other space where she has arrived with perfect credentials and watched the room decide, before she spoke, whether she belonged. Travis does not answer. Amara steps forward. Where Danielle's voice carries weight, the compressed weight of decades, Amara's carries something different. Clarity. The unloaded, undefended clarity of someone who has not yet learned to soften truth for the comfort of people who produced it. There are 30 passengers at this gate. You chose her. Before she arrived. You looked at her name on the manifest and you moved her. Why her? The gate is so quiet that the jet bridge ventilation system is audible through the sealed door. Travis looks at Sandra. Sandra looks at him with an expression that says, without any ambiguity, do not look at me for help. It was a judgment call. He says finally. Based on. He stops. Because there is no sentence he can finish that does not complete itself with the truth. Based on her name. Based on an assumption. Based on 12 years of deciding, quietly, at the threshold of a boarding gate, who looked like they belonged in the front of the plane. Clarence Webb steps forward from the boarding line. He is 60. Silver-haired. The particular stillness of a man who spent 3 decades making decisions that affected other people's lives and learned that stillness is the precondition of clarity. I'm a retired federal judge. He says. I have been standing at this gate for 19 minutes. I recorded this entire interaction from the moment Miss Kingsley approached the counter. Every word. Every timestamp. Every exchange. He lets this sit for exactly 2 seconds. I will make that recording available to any investigative body that requests it. Behind him, 4 passengers nod. One by one. The solidarity of witnesses. Danielle closes her eyes for exactly 1 second. 1 second. She sees Corey's apartment. The fellowship letter glowing on her phone screen at 2:31 a.m. The blazer on the hanger. The Uber arriving at 5 a.m. in the pre-dawn dark of a Birmingham street. She opens her eyes. I want my seat. 3 words. Quiet. Unshaking. Containing every year of every door and every double shift and every credential question twice over and every moment she was asked to accept less than what she had earned. 3 words that are not a request. Gerald Marsh reaches across the counter. He takes Travis Whitmore's gate access badge. It makes a small sound when it contacts the surface of the counter. Just a small sound. But every person in gate B27 hears it. The clip goes live at 7:03 a.m. Priya, 4th grade teacher from Decatur, gate B27, window seat, flight to visit her sister, posts 11 seconds of video to X with a 4-word caption. She had the ticket. 7 seconds later, the first comment appears. 7:03 a.m., clip posted. 11 seconds. Caption, she had the ticket. 7:09 a.m., 14,000 views. Reposted 800 times. 7:14 a.m., second angle posted by Clarence Webb. 3 minutes 47 seconds. Steady. Complete. 7:19 a.m., 200,000 views across both clips. 7:24 a.m., Travis Whitmore identified by name. Employee records surfaced. 7:26 a.m., Skybridge Airlines trending in Atlanta, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles. 7:31 a.m., the phrases Skybridge discrimination, 8-year-old shareholder, and Amara Kingsley trending simultaneously on 4 platforms. 7:38 a.m., Flight 214 has not departed. The jet bridge door is still open. Inside gate B27, none of the timestamps are visible. What is visible is this: the gate has a quality of altered air. The confrontation is over, and the silence that followed it is not the silence of resolution but of absorption, the way a space feels after something irreversible has happened inside it. Sandra Cole has completed 4 phone calls in 9 minutes. Each one shorter and more urgent than the last. The final call lasted 40 seconds. When she ends it, she looks at Gerald with an expression that communicates, precisely and without words, "It is now above both of us." Gerald knows what this means. Gerald is already typing. Travis Whitmore sits in a chair along the wall, the same row of seats where Amara was sitting 40 minutes ago. He is not in handcuffs. He has not been removed. But the badge is gone from his chest, and the 2 security officers stand close enough to the gate entrance that the geometry of the room has changed. He is inside it differently now. He is looking at his hands. He is thinking, for the first time this morning, about the things he did not consider before he made the modification at 6:31 a.m. The camera above the counter. The administrative log. The employee ID attached to every change in the system like a signature on a document. The fact that 30 passengers were present. The fact that one of them was a retired federal judge. The fact that the small girl in the yellow backpack, whom he dismissed in the first 10 seconds of her approach, had operational transparency rights embedded in a legal partnership agreement and a direct line to the airline's board. He had not considered any of it. He had considered only the name on the manifest, and the seat, and the assumption that lived in him so long it had stopped feeling like an assumption and started feeling like judgment. He made one decision at 6:31 a.m. that he thought no one would examine. By 7:31 a.m., 4 million people were examining it. Danielle Carter has not sat down. She has stood at or near this counter for 26 minutes. Her blazer is still pressed. Her leather tote is on the floor at her feet. The boarding pass is still in her right hand, the same boarding pass she held when she arrived, slightly bent now at the left edge where her grip tightened. She is exhausted in the way that has nothing to do with the 5 a.m. Uber or the night without sleep. It is the exhaustion of sustained dignity. Of being asked, again, to hold yourself completely together in a public place while someone systematically attempts to take apart something that is yours. She does not sit down. Amara crosses the gate area and stands beside her. Neither of them speaks for a moment. The airport moves around them, a distant gate announcement, the mechanical sigh of a luggage carousel, the smell of jet fuel filtering through vents in the sealed windows. Then Amara says, quietly, not as comfort but as fact, "You worked too hard to miss this flight." Danielle looks down at her. She means to say something full and adequate, something that holds the weight of the last 26 minutes and what it meant that this child crossed a crowded gate area and stood beside a stranger and did not move. But everything she constructs dissolves before it reaches language. She says, "How old are you?" Amara says, 8. Danielle almost laughs. It rises in her chest, gets halfway out, and becomes something else, not quite a laugh, not quite a cry, somewhere in the warm and necessary space between them. 8, she repeats. 8. Amara confirms. Straightforwardly. Like the number itself is sufficient explanation for everything that has occurred. The supervisor's phone rings. Gerald answers. Listens. His expression changes. He looks at Sandra. Sandra is already walking toward the counter. Sandra Cole does not apologize first. She acts first. This, Danielle will later understand, is the difference between institutional theater and institutional accountability. Sandra returns to the counter and types. Gerald types beside her. A printer behind the counter, the kind used for boarding documents and gate-specific passenger records, produces 2 sheets. Sandra takes them. She does not fold them or place them in an envelope. She carries them directly to Danielle and holds them out. Danielle takes them. She reads them the way she reads anything important, completely, once, without rushing. Skybridge Airlines, passenger remedy document, Ref. B27-0609. Immediate restoration of Seat 2A, Flight 214. Full VIP priority designation, Skybridge Tier 1, effective immediately and valid for 24 months. Priority access at all Skybridge terminals, domestic and international. Complimentary business class on all routes. Direct line to regional operations. Open incident investigation, reference number INV B27-0609. Formal written apology, executive level, to be issued within 48 hours. Danielle reads it twice. She folds it once, precisely, along a clean horizontal line, and places it in the front pocket of her leather tote. The pocket she keeps clear for things she needs to reach quickly. Sandra faces her directly. Eye contact, full and sustained, the kind that does not flicker away when the content becomes uncomfortable. Ms. Carter. What happened to your booking this morning was not a system error and it was not ambiguous. A gate employee made a deliberate modification to your reservation before you arrived. That employee has been suspended pending a full investigation. Skybridge Airlines accepts complete responsibility for what you experienced at this gate today. She pauses. I am sorry. That is not a phrase we say to manage a situation. It is where we begin correcting one. The gate area, which has been a held breath for the better part of 30 minutes, releases. Someone begins clapping. Then a second person. Then the entire gate, 30 passengers, most of whom have spent this morning as witnesses to something they could not intervene in, finding in applause the release that silence denied them. Danielle does not cry. She has decided, in the very private space beneath the pressed blazer and the sustained composure, that she will not cry here. Not because the emotion isn't real, it is so real it has physical mass, pressing against the inside of her sternum, but because she has earned the right to feel it somewhere she chooses, not somewhere she was put. She lets herself feel the applause. Just the applause. Just for a moment. She turns to Amara. For a long moment she simply looks at this child, this 8-year-old who stood beside a stranger and did not move, who accessed an internal airline system from a yellow backpack, who asked the question that no one with more years and more experience had been willing to ask out loud. I don't know what to say to you. Amara tilts her head. That precise, inherited tilt. My grandmother said you don't have to say things if you show them. Danielle crouches so they are level. Eye to eye. She is aware, distantly, of the phone still raised around her, of the cameras still recording, of the fact that this moment will be among the most watched seconds of footage from Gate B27 today. She does not perform for them. She speaks only to the girl in front of her. What's your name? I heard it, but I want to say it. Amara. Amara. Danielle says it the way you say something you are memorizing. Thank you. Amara holds eye contact. She is considering something. Can I ask you something? Yes. Are you a doctor? Danielle shakes her head. Nurse. ICU. Amara nods, not as affirmation, as assessment. The nod of someone filing information into a category that already exists. That's harder. Doctors have more time. Nurses have to be present every second. Danielle's almost laugh comes back. This time it completes itself, surprised and genuine, the specific laughter of someone ambushed by recognition. Your grandmother? My grandmother. Amara confirms. Marcus Kingsley steps forward. He extends his hand to Danielle with the simplicity of a man who does not traffic in elaborate gestures. We're glad you didn't step aside. Danielle shakes his hand. I almost did. Almost is not the same thing. Amara says. She reaches into the yellow backpack one more time. She removes something small. Ivory white. A card, embossed at the upper left corner with a small gold star. The Beaumont Foundation Medical Scholarship Program. Awarded annually to women in clinical medicine performing extraordinary work in underserved communities. Applications reviewed by the Foundation's Selection Committee. Evelyn Beaumont, founder. Amara holds the card out. My foundation has a scholarship for women in medical careers doing work that not enough people know about. Mrs. Okafor helps me with the selection committee and she is very particular, so you should write your application carefully. A pause. Measured. Deliberate. But I don't think you'll have trouble. Danielle takes the card. She reads it. Reads it again. Turns it over. Reads the back. She places it in the front pocket of the leather tote, the same pocket as the remedy document, and for the first time since she arrived at Gate B27 at 6:49 a.m., she picks the tote up off the floor. She is ready to move. Gerald is holding the jet bridge door open. The passengers remaining at the gate are quiet, the good quiet, the kind that follows something real. Danielle walks toward the door. At the threshold she stops and turns back. Amara is watching her. One hand raised, a small wave. Exact and unhurried. Danielle nods. She holds it one beat longer than a nod usually lasts. Then she boards. Mrs. Okafor's phone rings. She answers. Listens. Her expression changes, not alarmed, but recalibrated. She holds the phone out toward Amara with a look that says, this is not an ordinary call. It's the airline. Not the gate. Not Sandra. Executive level. Amara takes the phone. She listens for 4 seconds. She looks at her father. Marcus is already watching her, and something in his expression, some small shift that only a father's face makes, tells her he already suspects what the call is about. The voice on the phone belongs to Skybridge's chief operating officer. He is in the Chicago headquarters, in a conference room whose windows face Lake Michigan, and he has been in that room for 11 minutes, since the moment his communications director placed a tablet in front of him with the web footage running. He has watched it twice. He did not need to watch it a third time. He speaks in the carefully modulated language of a senior executive who understands that every word he says in the next 90 seconds is being processed by someone with operational transparency rights, investment-level leverage, and a grandmother's sense of when a person is managing a situation versus correcting one. He says, we would like to discuss the incident at Gate B27 and how Skybridge can demonstrate its commitment to the values that define our partnership with the Beaumont Foundation going forward. Amara listens to the full sentence. She does not rush to fill the silence at the end of it. Her grandmother taught her this: the person who speaks first into a silence is usually the person who needed the silence less. I'll need to include my father and our legal team in any formal conversation. Can we schedule something for this week? A pause. Of course. Whenever is convenient for Thursday. Amara says. Thursday works. She hands the phone back to Mrs. Okafor. She is 8 years old. She has just scheduled a meeting with an airline's chief operating officer the way another child might schedule a playdate. Without performance. Without triumph. With the matter-of-fact efficiency of someone who has been taught that power, properly used, does not need to announce itself. Marcus sits down beside her. He says nothing for a moment. He watches his daughter take her iPad back out and open it, not the airline system this time, but a document she has been working on for 3 weeks. A review sheet. The Beaumont Medical Scholarship Program Annual Selection Cycle. 23 applications. 23 women in clinical medicine. She has been through 17 of them over the past month, with Mrs. Okafor's help and the guidance of the Foundation's Selection Committee, 3 physicians and 2 researchers her grandmother trusted completely. Application number 18 has been in a separate folder, flagged and set aside, because something about it caught Amara's attention in a way she could not immediately name. She opens it now. The applicant is a 34-year-old ICU nurse from Birmingham, Alabama. The application was submitted 6 weeks ago. The personal essay begins with a sentence that Amara reads 3 times, slowly, the way her grandmother taught her to read sentences that carry real weight. I became a nurse because I wanted to be present for the exact moment when someone's world changes, not before it, not after it, but at the moment itself. I have learned that the most important thing a person can do in that moment is refuse to look away. Amara reads the name at the top of the application. Danielle Carter. Birmingham, Alabama. She sits with this for a moment. The gate is quiet around her. Gerald is at the computer. Mrs. Okafor is on her own phone, managing the morning's altered schedule. Marcus is watching his daughter with the specific stillness of a father who understands he is witnessing something and does not want to interrupt it. Amara had not known, when she watched Danielle approach gate B27's counter this morning, that the name she was watching was already in her folder. The connection did not form until Travis demanded identification and Danielle said her own name aloud, clearly, the way you say something you have earned the right to say. Danielle Carter. She recognized it the way her grandmother said you recognize what was always meant to find you, not with surprise, but with the quiet completion of something that was already in motion. She looks out the window. Flight 214 is at the end of the jet bridge, the aircraft visible through the terminal glass, white and vast and ordinary in the way that all things capable of carrying people across enormous distances are ordinary until you remember what they carry. Danielle Carter's in seat 2A. She is looking out her own window at the same sky. She is thinking about the interview. About Corey. About the blazer she pressed at 4 a.m. She is thinking about a small girl with box braids and a yellow backpack and a grandmother's certainty in every word she spoke. She is turning the ivory scholarship card over in her fingers, reading the gold star at the corner, reading the name, Evelyn Beaumont, founder. She is thinking about the essay she submitted 6 weeks ago and almost didn't write. She is thinking, I refuse to look away. And so did she. Back in gate B27, Amara opens her grandmother's fountain pen. The one Evelyn left her, silver-capped, slightly heavy, the kind of pen that was never for decoration. She finds the field on Danielle Carter's application marked, Scholarship Decision. It is blank. She writes one word. Scholarship Decision. Awarded. Marcus leans over and reads it. He places one hand briefly on her shoulder. He does not say anything. He does not need to. Outside, Flight 214 begins its slow push from the gate. The engines rise, a low vibration that moves through the terminal floor, through the chairs, through the carpet worn thin at the threshold of the boarding door. Amara watches it go. Then the phone rings again. Not Mrs. Okafor's. Not her father's. Amara's own phone. The number is a Washington, D.C. area code. Unknown. She has never received a call from this number before. She looks at it. She looks at her father. Marcus looks at the number. Something crosses his face, not alarm, but recognition. The recognition of a man who has been expecting a particular kind of call and is noting, quietly, that it has arrived sooner than he anticipated. Answer it. He says. I think this morning just became something larger than an airline. Amara looks at the phone. She looks out the window at the sky where Flight 214 is already climbing, already small, already carrying Danielle Carter towards something she has spent years working toward without any guarantee that the door would stay open long enough for her to reach it. Amara answers. She says nothing yet. She listens. Her expression does not change. It becomes, if anything, more still. More like her grandmother. And then, at gate B27 in Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, at 7:19 a.m. on a Tuesday that no one in it will forget, an 8-year-old girl takes a breath and begins. Her grandmother left her shares in airlines and railroads and private airports. But the real inheritance was this, the understanding that power is only worth having if you point it at the right things. And the knowledge, bone deep, unshakable, of how to recognize the right thing when you see it standing at a counter with a valid boarding pass and nowhere left to turn. Danielle Carter will land in Los Angeles at 10:42 a.m. She will take the interview. She will walk into the room and sit down and speak about 19 years of watching people survive things they should not have survived, and she will do it with the particular clarity of someone who started this morning at gate B27 and finished it with proof that not stepping aside is always the right choice, even when stepping aside feels like the only option. She will get the fellowship. She will call her brother from the hotel room that evening, and she will not tell him everything that happened at the airport, not yet, not all of it, but she will tell him, "Corey, sometimes the world arranges itself." And then she will cry, quietly, in the way she chose not to at the counter. She will let it happen there, in the room she chose. Travis Whitmore will not return to gate B27. The investigation will take 11 days. What it surfaces will be examined carefully, without theater, by people paid to examine it without theater. What it finds will be forwarded to the appropriate oversight body. The appropriate oversight body will do what oversight bodies do when 30 witnesses, a retired federal judge's unbroken footage, and an internal system log are all in agreement about what happened at 6:31 a.m. Skybridge Airlines will revise its discretionary boarding authority guidelines. The revision will not be announced with a press release. It will be enacted, quietly, institutionally, the way real changes are made, in every terminal Skybridge operates. New training. New audit protocols. New accountability structures for anyone with the access to reach into a reservation and move a person out of a seat she paid for. It will not be enough. But it will be a beginning. And beginnings, as Evelyn Beaumont used to tell her granddaughter, are the only place anything real ever starts.